What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Blue River Bow Hunting Podcast, episode 122. What's going on, Dylan?
Oh man, we're watching them grow down here, and it's finally into that they're putting some size on daily, and I'm excited.
Yeah, you got a couple that have really blown up. Really, in the last week and a half, 2 weeks, they've
Mhm.
really blown up.
Yeah, it's weird here, man. That mid July, late July, they'll grow what seems 3-4 inches a day if they're eating proper, which they definitely are. So
Well, as much as you feed them, they should be.
I know, yeah, they're eating healthy.
Right. Oh, for sure, you're taking care of them. But this week we got Anthony VanGrinsven from the Life Hunter in Minnesota. What's going on, dude?
Gentlemen, how you guys doing? Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. And don't try to say the last name. Anthony is perfectly fine. That last name, I can't even get it out some days.
Well, it's funny because I'm a redneck from Indiana. I'm not gonna lie to nobody, So every once in a while, I come across one that I have trouble with, and yours was one of those. And I was like, man, I got to find this somewhere how to say it. So I went to your podcast and listened to the intro to your podcast. I'm like, all right, I know how to say it now. I'm not gonna look stupid.
No, it's like I said, it's tough to get out. Even my wife had trouble with it for a long time when we first got married. I'm like, you got to know this because this is going to be part of who you are now.
Yeah.
Buddy, for somebody that doesn't know you, introduce yourself a little bit.
Again, I appreciate it. And my name is Anthony VanGrinsven, and I host a hunting and fishing show and a podcast and a cooking show and some little short stuff on TikTok for something called Life Hunter. And now, for what it is I used to watch this hunting guy for a long time. I'm not going to drop his name because he's a famous guy, and I don't want to, stick that out there. But I first got hooked on his shows because he used to tie like life lessons into his show. And one stuck out in particular, and I remember this time I was walking through the woods with my grandpa, and he taught me this and that. And I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. I like that idea, and I kept me watching. And it finally got to a point where he stopped and he just got into other things. And I finally taught myself to say, if I could do something that was outdoors and hunting and show the life lessons that every hunter wants to give to their son, to their daughter, to their spouse, to even themselves, I would love to do it. And I sat up one night in my house and said, screw it, I'm going to do it. And I started this knowing that everything I'm going to do, everything I say, everything I teach is going to have a lesson to it. And I couldn't come up with a name for a while. And then I thought, okay, what are these two things together? Well, it's tying life and being a hunter together. So I just made Life Hunter. And it's for those that follow or watch, I put out stuff all the time. And it's literally just tying life lessons from wild into everyday use. And it's been hitting home quite a bit, which is nice. It's nice to see that we have that reflective point where it's not just about killing the animal, catching the animal, or anything like that. You
Mhm.
actually can learn some stuff. And Dylan, just for watching you on your TikTok stuff, that one that you posted with your daughter running around in that little four-wheeler stuff,
Yeah.
that right there is one of the reasons why I started this stuff. Is so
Mhm.
that people take away more than just, oh, I'm going out and I'm bagging a 12-point buck, or I got this, or it's a shooter buck, or I got a 8-pound walleye. Yeah, but what else did you take away from the 8 hours that you were sitting there that you didn't catch the walleye?
Yep.
And that's what I did. And I started it. I do it up here in Minnesota. I'm branching out to do some other things. Like I was just out in Montana last week, elk scouting. I have land that I have up in Onamia, Minnesota here where I go bear hunting, deer hunting, duck hunting. And I'll look to do some other stuff like elk hunting because all that stuff teaches you something.
Mhm.
It's not always about the scout or the kill, like I said. So that's the quick rundown of myself and what I got going on.
That's awesome, man. Tell us, like, growing up, obviously you seem like you're wanting to tell a story of life and the lessons that come with it. Who was somebody that taught you lessons and life lessons in hunting growing up as a kid? Did you have a dad or a grandpa or somebody that took you hunting?
It was a combination of everybody. My dad got me into hunting when I was young, and the land that I hunt now was my grandpa's as a kid. So, if for a long time, I used to go fishing with my cousin who's around the same age as me. I used to go hunting with my cousin all the time. And then I would do it with my dad when I was younger. And my grandpa, I mean, he taught me a lot about the life lessons that come from hunting because he's he's like that old school guy. Like, it's not just this, but take a look and listen to what's around you. Learn to navigate the trees, learn to figure out weather patterns. Like, he taught me all of that, and I never realized what it could do until about 4 or 5 years ago when I started hunting again on my own. It's like, shit, I'm sitting out in the trees and I'm listening to birds, I'm listening to the rain, I'm listening to the snow, and I'm learning, what can I do to tie this? Well, if I'm patient enough, I'll learn that the storm will pass. Like, I just did one of my podcasts on the storm. We navigate storms in our life every day, and we hate it. We can't deal with it. It bothers us. We look for a way to get out of it, but then we never sit back and realize that the storm that's above us is going to go over. It's going to blow over. And those are the types of things my grandpa was teaching me as a kid that I never grasped onto. So as I did this, I just figured use him, use those lessons, and get it moving that way. And it's just all the little things that you don't think about. Walking into the woods. What does that teach you when you walk into the woods? Well, my grandpa taught me that this isn't just land that you walk into. You're going to take something more out of it that's going to provide for your family. You're going to teach your son the same lessons, and you're going to teach maybe a spouse or a friend or anybody who's never done this something else. So pay attention to the stuff that's around you. And man, he was a mentor that I'll never ever forget. He was always smart that way. Just when we're kids, we never listen. So now I get to teach that stuff to my kids now and be like, hey, pass this stuff on to your kids as well.
No, that's awesome. Dylan's doing a great job with all that down there in Tennessee with his girls and all that stuff.
Absolutely, he is.
And it slows you down, but I have learned in slowing down, like you said, I'm enjoying so much more. Because now she's cut loose on her own little 4-wheeler. So instead of her just hopping on with me and us getting it done, she's, we're taking a little bit longer, and I'm a little more cautious of which route we take to get there. But that kind of ties back into where the way that you're doing your stuff is so well said, and it's shorter format. So like you get so much out of a shorter, well spoken, well said format that you're left, well, I want more. So I ended up going through the entire thing the other day, listening to it, because there's a lot of great information, and you're very well spoken with the way you explain
Thank
things.
You. Well, the one thing I
awesome.
learned
I have to
is
go
that
check some of that out.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I do every day. I post something that's tied to like just a life lesson, and the ones that I do for TikTok, they're about 30 seconds long, and they're quick little things to say, hey, here's what we're going to teach today, or what can the wild teach you. And then like the Montana one I just did, that's like 20 minutes long. They're not long at all. And then my podcast is just me going through stories, telling stories, and hey, how can I take this lesson from this story and apply it to life? And it's, those are only at most 10 to 12 minutes as well. I don't think I actually have one over 12 minutes. And that's just it. It's keeping that attention. And because, to be fair and honest, I'm 48. The generation below me, man, they don't pay attention to anything if it's over 3 seconds long. So
True.
trying to catch them is good. And I'll be honest, my son who's 15 and my daughter who's 12, and my daughter, she watches them all. She wants to read the comments, and she's like, Dad, this one's a little too long. Maybe you should start shortening them a little bit. Done.
Yeah.
Done. But I appreciate you listening and watching, though. That means a lot to me. And I'm glad that there's something more that's out of it. And when I started this, I didn't expect anybody to take anything out of it. It really didn't start as a brand for me. It started more as a I don't want to say like a therapeutic thing, but it was more of a way for me to just unleash how I felt and what I liked and what I could learn. And it's hunting and the outdoors and fishing are just that. They're therapeutic. Whether anybody wants to admit it or not, the saying always is you carry more into the woods than you take out. And it can't be more true. And I'm just doing this because it's fun. I like it, can teach some things. And again, it was just a way to start getting rid of some internal bullshit, and it's awesome. And like I said, I'm glad people like you, Dylan, are catching on, and I'm glad other people are listening. And there's been a lot of positivity that comes with it, and I see that from the comments. So I'm glad it's taken the where it's supposed to.
What I like so far is I can tell that you don't even really have to have so much creativity with this, because you're going into the woods and you're like, I learned this today, and then boom, you're doing it. And that seems like, I'm not saying that you're not a creative person. I'm saying the creativity is coming to you a lot faster with doing those lessons. And then what you said, like you said, 30 seconds or less, or 12 minutes or less, or whatever, you're able to really spit out what you're trying to say in short form, which would be a lot easier for something like that compared to us who do it for an hour a week. So we got to stretch it out and hit the every little details about it. You know what I mean?
And you know, that's just it, is that you guys get to collaborate and do this stuff together, which is awesome. And when I first started to think about the podcast stuff, people are like, oh, you got to do a podcast, you got to do this. And it's like, I might do that, but if I start out doing it, I'm going to do it where it's me talking to an audience and give them that stuff so they can just sit back and listen. There doesn't have to be an interaction. It's on their time, their pace. They can listen as they need to. And I found that works great for stuff like this. And you can literally sit in a car and do it.
Yeah.
And I have an old that lives near me, and he stopped me one day and said, you know, I just sat and listened to all of them one day, kind of like what you just said, Dylan. And he goes, I loved everything. He goes, made me think about my kids when I was growing up and we were hunting. It made me think about all the times I brought the neighbor kids out. He goes, it hit. And he goes, there was no extra. There's no commercials. There's no nothing. It's just 10 minutes of straight, all of my memories hitting me at once through you. Like, then I've done my job. That right there makes this all worth it. And I love it. And I'm passionate about it, which is different because, man, growing up, like, I've always had a passion for sports. I always had a passion to be a police officer and work in law enforcement. But this is way better. It's way more rewarding than anything I've ever done. And I love it.
You know, you talked about, battling the storms that you get each day. Was there storms that you had to battle when creating a brand like this? Like, was there things that you thought were more difficult than another, or just getting it taken off, or logistics, or like website, or podcast editing? Is it just like another storm that you just got to fight through?
It's funny you say that. And the one thing I tell people is that if you're just going to start something, just do it. I literally sat up one night drinking whiskey at like 11:30 and just said, F it, I'm going to do it. And then by the next day, I had my first cookbook already completed. I had the brand, I had the logo, I had everything. And the only storm that I actually had to battle through that is whether or not this was going to be successful. Because you never want to go into something going, I'm going to put all this energy in it, all this time into it, and just, are people going to like it? Are they going to understand it? Is it going to be meaningful? And I struggled with that. But everything else, it seemed to have come natural. And I'm not creative by any means. I just trust what my gut tells me, trust what I write down, and know that it has meaning to it, and just go into it positively. And that's, I think, one of the biggest lessons I've learned is that I can't be scared of what's inside to share with the world. And I'll be honest, most men, not to dive into a deeper subject, but most men don't do that. They're very quiet, and that's why we hunt. That's why we fish, is because that's that moment where we get to shut off the rest of the world and go, I don't have to listen to the phone. I don't have to listen to the kids. I don't have to listen to work. I don't have to listen to this. And it's our piece to do whatever. Now I just get to share what my piece brings me and hopefully somebody else. But it's going. I mean, I'm sure you guys experienced this when you started too. There was that fear of, is it going to work? As people think that this is like an overnight success. Like, oh, you're going to be a millionaire because you're on TikTok. Oh, you got a YouTube channel. You're going to be this. No, I
Right.
give most of my stuff away because I want people to value something more than me making money. I could care less if I make money or not, to be honest with you, but I get to share some stuff with people. And that makes me navigate those storms of failure for sure.
Yeah. And people are so quick to throw an ideal out that potentially has, an unlimited max to it, but it's not instantly rewarded. And people want to just they're like, oh, well, I tried and it got, 255 views or something like that. And
Right.
it's like, well, the way I think about it is it's kind of like a food plot. There's a lot of work that goes into that before you ever even see a yield. You're going to see that little
Yeah.
sprout. You're going to see the growth. And then before you know it, you turn around and you have a field full of corn. And I heard a really good perspective on it the other day. He was like, people get discouraged when, they get 500 views on a video. He said until 500 people are chasing him through an alley, he said, and then all of a sudden 500's a lot. He's like, so it's all that perspective of
Yeah.
what you're shooting, what you're trying to, go for. And that kind of, that hits. It's like, well, you look at some of the videos and you're like, whoa, that's a sold out arena that
Yeah.
it would have filled up for, people to watch this small clip. So it's just like, you just have to keep pushing it out. And like, everybody's so different. Everybody views things and sees things differently. They receive things different. But when it comes
Yeah.
to hunting, there's a common denominator of why, like you said, why we're out there to shut it off. It doesn't matter if we kill or not. Like a true hunter, he's just out there to really enjoy just being out there. And as you're seeing it, it's kind of taking a whirlwind back to that, where it's like, oh, these guys are just wanting to share deer camp again. They're just wanting to BS around a fire and just talk about stories. And they're just there for the sake of being around friends and throwing the phones down and not having that instant,
Yeah.
solicitation of just random stuff popping up.
And that's, what, sometimes that's what people miss and people don't understand if they're not in that world is oh, you're just going out there drinking beer and shooting shit. No. Hunting, it doesn't end just because we get out of the woods or because we go into the woods. I mean, like I said, one of my biggest memories are of me and my cousin hanging out, hunting and all that and fishing. I didn't care if we caught fish, but I sure as heck enjoyed telling stories of when
Mm-hmm.
we were growing up and being out on the boat all day. That's more important. Even now, we'll get together and we'll talk and we'll be like, "Yeah, do you remember this? Remember that?" Yeah, that's what we take from it. And that's what people miss and don't understand. And I like that. And it's important that people see that side because it is more than just carrying a gun somewhere.
Yeah.
And I try to relate it to you said about the viewership. I don't care if I see one person view it or 500 because when I worked in like a law enforcement capacity, if I saved one life and dealt with 1,000 bad guys, I'm going to remember that one. I'm not going to
Mm-hmm.
remember the rest. And it's the same with this video. If 500 people see it and skim over it, I know that somewhere in there, one person looked at it and went, "Yeah, that got me. You know what? I appreciate that." And that's all I'm looking for, just that one.
It really throws you off because I do some of these, like the Deer and Turkey Expo here in Indy every year, and go work it every year. So you
Yep.
don't remember seeing them, but they remember seeing you. So they come up to you and talk to you. Hey, man, you told me about the podcast last year. I've been listening every week. I love what you guys are doing. It's so cool. You got some stickers. It's like, they
Yep.
came to you and they came out of their way to say how they enjoyed your content that you put out. And I never thought in a million years I never thought I'd have a podcast in a million years. If you'd asked me, 6-7 years ago, I'd been like, you're crazy. I'm not talking for an hour every week.
Right?
Now
Isn't
now it
it?
feels weird that I don't sometimes. If we take a week off or something, I'm like, man, I've got to get back on that mic.
Oh, isn't
Yeah.
that crazy how life shifts like that? You're like, "Oh, that's never going to be me." And then also you're like, "Oh shit, that's me."
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Dylan's never experienced it. He experienced it a little bit last year when he came up to Indiana. A little bit of a camp feel here. Nothing, but I've experienced the southern camps like down there at Dylan's turkey hunting and stuff like that. And I've experienced the north. I've hunted Wisconsin and stuff like that, which is I know pretty close to you up there. The north
Yeah.
deer camp has a different feel to it. And I feel like there's a lot of heritage in that northern region with
Yeah.
Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, all that north, that strip right there. You guys have some huge roots, deep roots when it comes to deer hunting.
We have what I like to call hand-me-down land. And that's starting to go away a little bit, which kind of sucks, but that hand-me-down land is what creates that legacy, that generation and that feel. Like my grandpa, the land that I hunt on was his and it was his parents' land before that. So I mean it's been in our family for generations. And that land carries something with it. It
Mm-hmm.
carries those memories and it carries that legacy. And you're right, it does feel different because it's not just the family that you've got. It's not just the friends you've got. It's all that stuff before you. And once you realize that there's somebody around, like at a, here we have the VFWs and all that stuff. If you go to the local just watering hole, there's always that one guy that's sitting on the bar that's 70, 80 years old. And he's like, oh, I remember when we were hunting deer and they had, 70 points back in the day. And
Right.
there was 50,000 bear running through here. Yeah, none of it might have been true, but he still got those stories and those memories from the land that you're on.
Right.
So, and that's what it is. And I've learned that down south, they still have that, but there's a lot of new land down south where this is my land. I bought this and I'm going to hand it down to my family. And there's not much storytelling that goes behind it. Up here, yeah, Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Dakotas, it's all hand-me-down land. And that's what part of the appeal is. I love it. Even in Montana, when I was there the last week doing some elk scouting, that land out there, it felt so different because that's exactly what it is. It is generational land, and it is everywhere. It's not like the show Yellowstone by any means, just so everybody knows. It is, but it is definitely generational ranch land for sure.
Talk about like laws and regulations in Minnesota. I know, it stretches, so different across from the south up to the north there. Talk a little bit about laws and regs in Minnesota, like how many deer you can take, how many bucks, all that stuff.
So all of that stuff varies by zone. I don't know how you guys do it there, but we zone everything out. So I'll hunt in zone 151, someone will hunt in zone 152. And depending upon the population of where you're at, that's what you can hunt. Some zones are any deer, anytime, during the season. But if you get down to like our southeastern place, it's only bucks only because there's, the chronic waste disease animals. So you can only take that. Once you get up north, sometimes it's only doe only. And it all varies. And it all depends on if you're doing bow hunting, that changes it. If you're muzzle loading, that's different. Rifle season, that's different. And they try to keep the population pretty good here, which is nice. And where I hunt, I'm noticing more and more deer coming back. I don't know if that's due to lack of hunters in the area or if the regulation is finally working to where the population are growing. But for a long time, it was you can only take doe because there were so many. And the bucks were just getting thinned out. And all you would see is, spike bucks, fork bucks, no big ones or anything like that. And over the last 5-6 years, I've been noticing a lot more of that. But as far as like anything else, like they're just starting to reopen up some of the bear stuff. We're starting to get a larger bear population up in northern Minnesota, which is good. I love it. It got me a chance to go bear hunting for the first time last year. Great experience for anybody that's ever done it. Coming 20 feet from a bear is way different than a deer, just so everybody knows.
I guarantee
It's way different. And, taking it out is different and understanding what you've just killed is different and learning the lessons behind that's different. But we're also, I don't know what it is. It just came out last week, but we do have some regulations changing where you're either allowed to do more hunting with different means or they're regulating it a little more. But we have such different populations with everything that 1 year timber wolf will be open because they're everywhere. And then 1 year they won't be because people are poaching them. Like our moose population is so low that you really can't hunt moose in Minnesota. You got to go out to Colorado, Montana, Wyoming. Same with elk. You can only hunt elk in one corner of our state. So we have limitations, unfortunately, which allow us to go out elsewhere. But I'd like to see that stuff come back here. But overall, Minnesota does a pretty good job of a lot of things. We do a lot of regulation for like trout fishing in the springtime. In the city that I live in, every year they stock our river with probably anywhere from 2,000, 3,000 trout every single year. And everybody gets to go fishing. And I love it. And it's made that river very, it thrives. I mean, it does very well. And that's the kind of stuff that we're seeing here, which is nice. We don't have a lot of like crazy laws. Like Montana right now, they're going through that, make the public land private and sell it everything. We don't get a lot of that stuff here, which I like. Tourism is our big thing here. the outdoors, nature, all of it. And that's, we live off that. Although now I will tell you this, we have a new law where boaters now have to have a license to drive a boat. That never used to be a thing.
That's wild.
So now we're generating new tax revenue with every boater has to have a license. And I mean, kids that are 16 that were going out fishing now have to go buy a license to go ride, a 9-horse Johnson out in the middle of a lake, which they never used to have to.
Yeah.
So we're getting there, but we don't have much, as we say.
What led you to going out to Montana and out west that way? I say it seems very far west from where I'm at, but it's probably really not that bad from you, right?
It's where I went is about a 14-hour drive.
Okay,
But
so it is as bad as I thought.
the reason why I went there is because I wanted to experience something different that I don't get in Minnesota.
Mhm.
I've never been elk hunting, never been seeing grizzly bears or anything like that. I wanted to see something different. And mostly because I wanted to see if I would learn something different about myself and learn a different lesson. And it did. I went out to the Beartooth Mountains and I had no path, no map, no GPS, no nothing. I literally parked the car and just walked the woods. And I'm just going to trust what happens. And I learned a lot. Like, you don't have to have a path to know where you're going to succeed. Yeah, you can trust your gut and get where you're going. And that's honestly all it was, just to learn something different, to see something different and experience something completely different.
Yeah. That's something that I think every hunter has experienced where you you harvest something. You're like, I didn't see it happening like that. Like never in a million years, I couldn't have drawn that
Right.
up. Like there's no way. If you ask me, I would tell you that that's not how I seen it playing out. So that's just,
Right.
you just never know. And there's hunts that you get in there and you set for 6 hours and then get one, or you don't. Then there's hunts where you're there for 5 minutes and don't have enough time to get set up, and it just happens that quick. So
Yeah.
it really is just a beautiful dance.
Yep, absolutely. And I will tell you, if you've never been to the mountains by any means, please go. It is one of the most amazing things I've ever seen. Just incredible.
As far as hunting goes, I'll do Montana for instance, since you were just there. How's that work licensing wise? Is that all over the counter? Is it a draw system? How's that work?
So you can get them, but it's on you buy a number, like you get a license number, and
Mhm.
then you enter for certain drawings. But you can, like elk and moose and stuff like that. But you can buy stuff like pronghorn and a few other different licenses. But you do pay a larger non-residence fee than you would. But the more you buy into it, the more points you get, and the more likely you are to be drawn.
I got you.
Which is nice. I mean, it's not that difficult to do, and it's not expensive. Like there's some places in Wyoming where you could buy a moose tag for $3,000, where in Colorado and Montana it's $875. So you just have to navigate through that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'd pay thousands of dollars to go sit in those places all day and not see an elk.
Yeah. I know that you only got a little bit of time with us today. Let's do a part, like a second part to this. I feel like we're having a pretty good conversation. I know you're
Yeah,
wrapped for time
absolutely.
tonight, but
Those
we wanted
damn
to
kids, they get in the way every time, don't they?
Right. It's not that bad to have a two-parter since have kind of a little saga going on with you, but I wanted Dylan to kind of talk about the Hunt to Help and you donating to his cause and kind of put your name out to the little bit, let people know what you're doing for other people.
Yeah.
I
So
appreciate that.
you reached out, we chatted back and forth a little bit, and then we had a phone conversation, and I kind of he's like, what is it? And I told him what I wanted to do with it, what I was, and he's like, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. He's like, I'm going to send you something to sweeten it up. And man, he sent me the backpacks, extremely good quality. I was thoroughly impressed with them.
Thank you.
Myself, I'm not in, I told everybody I'm not entering myself in anything, because I'll be, running it and making sure. And I was like, but I'm going to end up with one of these backpacks because these are sweet. And I put it on my story and stuff, and people were like, hey, they were super interested. So it's just
Good.
cool to be able to help somebody that was going to help, somebody else. You're helping people that you never even met and probably never will meet, some of these families that are going to benefit from this hunt. So that just speaks volumes about who you are and just goes to back up
Thank you.
exactly what you're doing with your cause and with Life Hunter. Got my hat on right now. So it's
Which I
something that
appreciate.
I'll rock with it, going forward. And we appreciate you greatly, because I'm excited. Anybody who wins those backpacks they're going to be tickled pink.
Good. And if there's anything else I could do, like I said, I'm going to donate a bunch of hats to you as well. So anything else I can do, by all means, let me know. And if you don't mind,
Go
since
for
we
it.
have a few minutes,
Yeah.
I don't know what your audience is like, but I'd like to offer your audience something as well,
Okay.
if that's okay.
Absolutely.
For anybody that follows us at Life Hunter TV on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, or anything like that, if they send me a message that they got it from this podcast, I will give everybody that follows us from this podcast a free hat.
Nice.
Every single person.
Awesome.
That's awesome, man,
So,
for sure.
and I don't care if it's 100, I don't care if it's one. I just want to make sure everybody gets something nice and enjoys it. And my way of saying thank you to you guys in your audience for listening and having me a part. And part two, let's do a
Absolutely.
part two, and I'll be happy
Yeah.
to give away some other stuff to, a backpack, give away one of our cookbooks, anything. Happy to help.
That'd be
That's awesome. But before you hop off here, man, tell everybody where they can find you so they can DM you and get a free hat.
I love it. You can find us anywhere at Life Hunter TV. That's on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and YouTube. It's at Life Hunter TV. Or if you go sign up at thelifehunter.com, make sure thelifehunter.com. If you do an email, I'll send you a free hat is there as well.
Awesome.
That's awesome, dude. Well, I can't wait to have you back on again, and we'll
And I
dive into
appreciate
some details on some of this hunts and how you hang stands and pick up properties and everything like that.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you guys both having me. And it's, again, anything you need from me, Dylan, let me know. I'm happy to help out. And it's been an honor, gentlemen. So thank you. And I look forward to part two for sure.
Absolutely.
Awesome. We appreciate you.
Appreciate
Anytime,
you.
guys. You guys have a good night, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, sir.
See ya.
Bye.
Dylan, tell them where they can find you at.
Same as everywhere. D'Albright 7 across the board.
Awesome. And we'll see you back here again next week for part 2 of Life Hunter. See ya.